Hi! I'm so glad you're here. I'm very excited for this week's video, and that's because my family is taking a surprise trip to Universal Studios to try and see Epic Universe during its previews. And we leave in a week, and I'm very grateful that I get to go. And whenever I visit a theme park, I like to make new outfits that fit the theme of wherever I'm going. This is called bounding, which is when you wear clothes to imply a character, a place, or even an item that you've chosen to emulate. It's like a watered down cosplay. Although sometimes I go a little overboard with my outfits and it feels a bit more like a cosplay by the end of it. But for this trip, I'm going to make one outfit for the How to Train Your Dragon section of the park, inspired by the Isle of Berk, and one inspired by the Universal Monsters section, Darkmoor. We're going to start with my outfit for the Isle of Berk.
This is Berk.
Because of how wonderfully immersive this park looks, I've decided that I don't want to emulate an existing character specifically. I kind of want to be my own character walking around the Isle of Berk, like that's where I live. To start, I sat down and looked at some images of the characters from the first film and tried to note some common choices in the design of their clothes. I found that lace-up shirts with short sleeves, vests, metal accents on their armor and headwear, fur accents, wrist wrappings, and earth tones to be common ties between all of their outfits. So I went ahead and drew up this sketch. The rules at Universal on cosplay seem a little bit more lax than they are at Disney, so I'm not too worried. However, I don't want to cause any problems that would prevent me from going in, so I still want to play it sort of safe. If I can manage it time-wise, I would like to have a little dragon buddy on my shoulder. I had originally planned to make a full How to Train Your Dragon cosplay with a dragon puppet for when the live-action movie comes out, and I probably still will. I'll just utilize the pieces that I make now and add more onto them and make a bigger dragon when the movie comes out. Maybe he'll be like the full-grown version of the little guy I hopefully take to the parks. Most of the materials for this one are going to come from my fabric stash because I think I have the right colors and textures to do this, which means it'll be mostly secondhand. However, I did want to make a pleather vest and have some pleather accents to it, and all of our thrift stores were closed today, and I really don't have any other time this week to go back. So I did have to go to the craft store, and I picked up 1 yard of some pleather and some other trimmings and some other fabrics that we'll talk about when we do the Universal Monsters outfit. It's a little late as I'm recording this because I did run errands today, but I do need to get things started because, much like a dragon, the week is flying by very quickly, so I'm gonna go get to work. For the skirt, I'm going to use what's left of the green sheet I used in my bedsheet dress video because it is light, comfortable, and the green is a great color for this project. Because it's likely going to be very hot, the skirt has to be very flowy and light, so this bamboo cotton bedsheet will be perfect for that. I wasn't intending to make it a circle skirt at first, but in the end I just kind of went for it, and I have no regrets. The shirt is going to be a dark brown from this fabric I got at a thrift store a couple years ago. The sleeves aren't going to be as short as most of the character sleeves because I personally like a little more length than that, so I'm going to do a quarter-ish length sleeve with just a tiny bit of poof because I can't help myself. And I'm cutting a small V in the neckline to make it a lace-up top. I'm 30 minutes past the time I told myself I would stop, but I did get most of the top done. Construction-wise, it's almost done. I need to add the elastic to the bottom of the sleeves, and because this shirt is so short and I don't have any more of that fabric, I'm just gonna make it a dress. I was going to make it separates so that it would be a little more, what is the word? Versatile? No, well, so that I could wear them separately. I'm trying to say, so I could wear them separately for different things, but I still think it'll make a pretty cute dress if I just put the skirt and the top together. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I did cut out pockets for the skirt. We will finish this up tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Hello. It's the next day. I forgot everything I was gonna say. Good stuff. Good. Oh, so cold. Today I'm going to finish up my How to Train Your Dragon dress. The dress itself is nearly done. I realize now that I was planning on doing the lace-up part with some cloth loops and then threading a cord through them, but I should have sandwiched them between the shirt and the, what's it called, interface, but I didn't. So so we're gonna do so I'm gonna put some, what are words? I can't think of words. Rivets? No. What are they? Circles! We're gonna punch some holes in it! I don't remember what they're called. What is happening? Why can I not think of any words? Grommets? Are they grommets? Grommets. Yeah, grommets. We're gonna put some grommets in it instead since I forgot to sandwich the fabric loops between the... Wow. You know, I already explained the plan. Let's just get to it, because apparently I can't speak today. When it comes to the vest, I'm going to try and have some more fun with the design. I got this pleather trim to put over the front edges, which should add some nice texture. I made 2 thin strips for ties at the front and stitched them down between the trim and the front of the vest. For the back, I thought about adding some dragon scale details to the shoulders, kind of going down the back, but then I had this idea to put the park symbol on it instead. It's a little image of Toothless kind of looped around, and I have some perfect pleather for this that I got years ago. To do this, first I drew the image onto a thin piece of paper, then placed the textured pleather on the back of the vest, and put the paper on top of that, and then pinned all 3 layers together. Then I slowly stitched around the lines through the paper. It took a while, but it was so worth it. Once that was done, I carefully tore the paper from the back, using tweezers to remove any paper bits that were left under the stitches. For the belt, I got this metallic trim on sale and thought it might be a fun choice, kind of imitating the studded metal look that a lot of their armor has. Alright, I got all of it done. I probably could have continued decorating that vest for a long time because I do want to add more to it, but I don't want to get too cosplay-ish, and I just finished putting the accessories together, the belt and the bracelets. As far as any further accessories, like perhaps making a satchel or making the little dragon, I'm gonna hold off on them until I get the other outfit done first. Until then, we're just gonna focus on the clothes. And tomorrow I'll get to work on the monsters invited. Inspired. Tomorrow I'll get to work on the monsters inspired outfit, so I'll see you then. Hello! It's the next day, and it's time to get a little spooky, because today I'm going to make the Universal Monsters outfit, and I'm really excited to get started because I have some of the coolest fabric I've ever gotten, I think, during what was most likely my last ever run to Joann's, which is a little sad. Everything was reasonably discounted, which is the only reason why I was able to get this, but I have this lovely skull lace. Skull and bones. I love it. With basically everything, you had to get 2 yards no matter what, so I do have 2 yards of it here. This was my original sketch, heavily influenced by The Bride of Frankenstein. I almost was even just going to wear this, which I actually did in the March Disney Bound challenge when I dressed up as the bride. And I'm probably going to use all of the accessories I have from that bound, the hot glue necklace that looks like stitching, and the lightning bolt earrings, because it still fits the theme. But my plan from the original sketch is only going to be changed a little bit, because once I saw this, I knew I had to use it. It was too cool, and it was finally at a price point where I could afford it. So I think we're gonna do this instead. The skull lace will kind of be an overlay to a gray dress. I did purchase some gray, very cheap gray fabric because I wasn't sure if I had enough silver left over from my dream dress, and I didn't know what kind of black fabric I had, so I got the gray just to be safe. So we'll kind of see what we've got first and then play around with what goes under the overlay, but I'm not quite sure how to sew it. I don't think I've ever actually sewn with lace like this, so the gaping holes in the sides might pose a bit of a challenge, but I'm up for it because I gotta make this work. We're gonna do our best. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do our best, so I'm gonna go get to work. For this Universal Monsters inspired outfit, I walked into Joann's with a plan and left with an entirely different concept. I knew I wanted to have some elements inspired by the bride because after doing some very light research about her film for the Disney Bound Challenge in March, I've been slightly obsessed with her story, or rather, lack thereof. The dress is gonna be gray, which I did have to get at the craft store as well, but the patches I'm adding are thrifted black fabric from my stash. I used a washable glue stick to kind of hold it in place while I zigzag stitched around it, and I wasn't sure how this would work or if it would be really messy, but it totally worked, and I'm definitely going to be using this trick again. I'm sewing this dress with the seams on the outside, since the bride and Frankenstein's monster are very visibly stitched together, and to add even more Frankenstein-y detail, I'm adding some large black stitching all down the front and back of the dress, as well as around the patches. To do this, I cut several short pieces of black yarn and zigzag stitched over top. For another detail pertaining to the bride, I made a black bandana with white squiggly stripes running up the sides to mimic her iconic hair. For the skeleton lace crop top bolero thing, the pattern pieces in the lace are so large and spaced out that I decided hand sewing the seams would be best. And even though it did take a while, I think this was actually faster and better than fighting with my machine. Working with the lace is taking me quite a bit longer than I thought it would. I don't know why I thought it would be easy. I'm having to cut around the shapes so as not to cut them in half. The pattern pieces are, you know, where there would be a straight line, it kind of goes back to the point. It's very late, so I'm gonna finish up the shirt and the bandana tomorrow and then maybe get started on a dragon. I don't know, we'll see how long everything else takes because the shirt is kicking my butt right now, so we'll figure it out tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Hello, it's the next day. I feel weird not having a mug, but I've already had my coffee. I'm going to continue my work on the lace shirt thing. I think it's going to be more of a little like bolero type thing because I don't really want to cover up all the work I did on the dress. So I might have to do some more trimming to bring the hemline up a little bit because I have to hand sew everything together due to just the nature of the fabric. It's gonna take a while. I also have to finish the bandana, and if I have time, make the dragon. So I'm gonna get to work. Now, I'm kind of picky and anxious when it comes to bags for the park. I'm picky because I don't want to be left with no room to take important things, but I don't like very large and cumbersome bags. I'm anxious because I don't want the bag to break while I'm at the parks, and then I'm really left with no options. Because of this, I have relied upon ready-made bags that I then decorate to fit my outfits because I have trusted professionally made things more than my own creations. But having no other options that matched either of my outfits for the trip, I decided to take a chance and make my park purse. I used the same pleather from the Berk vest, used my phone as a size reference, and used all of my wins and mistakes from purses past to figure out the pattern. I still have many magnetic clasps in my stash, so I added 2 to the front, then added some of the darker pleather I used for Toothless to make faux straps on the front flap. I lined it with the trimmings from my old brown curtains, and while the lining is not perfect, in fact it didn't line up at all, it was functional still, and that's all I could ask for, really. Before the night was through, my purse was complete, and I think it matches the vibes of both of my outfits pretty well. I wasn't expecting to make a bag for this, but I didn't really have a bag that I felt fit with either of the outfits, so that did take up quite a bit of my day today, trying to figure it out without a pattern, and it's not perfect, but I'm thankful that I kind of started sewing purses 3 or 4 years ago at this point, and I've made quite a few, so I kind of remembered the process, sort of. I kind of fudged it a little on the lining, which I've never been very good at. And with the theming, something that always bothers me a little bit, having to wear tennis shoes, but I know that's the responsible decision to make. I thought about making a boot cover for the tennis shoes, but I think that's going way too far into costume territory, so I'm not willing to test those waters. However, I think I am willing to test some dragon-infested waters. Well, that sounds terrifying. I still want to try to make a dragon. I think it's a terrible terror. They're very cute. The baby furies remind me of Pearl. I'm a little bit torn on whether or not I make myself a tiny little fury or a terrible terror. I think a terrible terror is probably going to win out because they also remind me of Pearl, just because they're small and mischievous and have big eyes. So I'm going to give myself an hour, see how much I get done, and kind of based off of where I'm at in an hour, I'll decide if I want to continue. So I'm going to stop talking and get to work. Okay, my timer just went off. I added 5 minutes because I had to switch out my SD card because the other one was full. But I actually got farther on this than I thought. I like his little belly. I like his little squishy. His back is a little messed up right here, but because I'm working with pleather scraps. They're oddly cut and oddly shaped. So I'm gonna have to get kind of creative with how I layer things, but I got so much done on it that I think I'm gonna finish it. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it. I tried making a felt head. I just can't get the felt to cinch around enough without breaking the thread and ruining the shape. Let me see here real quick. This will dictate whether or not I sculpt the head tonight. I just wrap around the thread. Oh, yeah, it broke. Okay, okay, but that's not bad. They have a pretty large head. No, I don't want the flashlight on. I don't want the flashlight. I'm gonna cut to the footage of me finishing up this little dragon friend, and then I'll see you in Epic Universe for the reveal. You haven't been replaced. There's just no room up here right now. He just fits on my shoulder. Why are you so cute? I've had some really great experiences dressing up at Disney, and honestly, my experience was just as great at Universal. One of my favorite parts of dressing up in the parks is having random little conversations with people brought on by the outfits. I'm a very socially anxious person, so having some sort of icebreaker like my clothing is nice to have, but it's also really fun for character and team member interactions. I met so many characters I really wasn't expecting to meet so many when I was there, but I met Gobber, I met Astrid and Stormfly, I met Hiccup and Toothless, and even though I was very awkward, Gobber, I am so sorry. You handled my nonsense very kindly, but I'm so sorry. However, playing it up like I was a Viking living in their world made it much easier for me. Like when I was meeting the dragons, the team member that was kind of helping people know when to go said that Astrid and Stormfly were going to have to leave, unfortunately before my turn, and I said, of course, they have, you know, important duties around Berk to take care of. It was obviously very okay, and I could be wrong, but I think it was because of how I was dressed that when they saw me, they made a special effort to interact with me. They came over to the end of the line, and I thought it was going to be like a passing hello goodbye as they were leaving, but they really made quite a bit of time to meet me and make my interaction very special, which it was. Stormfly was especially very excited, and I love her. I love Stormfly. Like, I love Toothless, but Stormfly might have my heart now, because that was very sweet. And a similar thing happened with Hiccup. He at some point had to leave and come back, and when he did, he said that, oh, I look like I live around here, and I said, yeah, I live on a more northern island. And he asked if we have dragons there, and so I said, yes, we have terrible terrors. And he told me about how they like to pester Toothless and how dragon mail didn't exactly work out because of the terrible terrors. And speaking of terrible terrors, I did not bring my little dragon friend to Berk, and I do regret it. I wasn't sure how cool they would be with me having him, just because I didn't really know anything about dressing up at Universal, and if for whatever reason they would ask me to remove him, he barely fit in my bag. And if I had to put him in my bag, then there would be no room for my phone and other important things, so I ended up not taking him. And I regret it because after going, I see how feasible it would have actually been. Getting onto rides and stuff, there are lots of lockers that I could have put him in, and honestly it seems like there's a lot more room for creative dressing at Universal than there is at Disney, so I think it would have been okay, especially because I clearly wasn't a cast member or a team member of any sort, and I think that's one of the biggest no-nos, is you cannot seem like you work there, and that goes for both Disney and Universal. So I do regret not taking my little terrible terror, but you know, oh, you live and you learn. However, I still don't have a name for him, so if you have any ideas, let me know. So meeting the dragons and the dragon riders was one of my favorite parts of the trip, but another I think was also meeting the bride and Frankenstein's monster. She immediately saw my stitched necklace and asked if I too was created, and if so, was I a friend? So, playing it up, much like a Viking in Berk, I told her, yes, I was created, and yes, I am indeed a friend. And Frankenstein's monster was very pleased to hear that and kept staring at me and calling me friend, and it was such a good interaction. Upon my departure, she told me to be careful out there. Everybody does in Darkmoor, tells you to be careful because there are monsters and monster hunters lurking about. So whatever side you're on, you gotta be careful out there. They were both so much fun to meet, and the outfit was the perfect conversation starter. The skull and bone lace also caught the eye of a park goer who is a medical examiner, so she was very into the skull and bones, and as a result we all kind of chatted for a while, which was very nice. I also had some very lovely conversations with team members because of my outfits, and it was just such a great time. If you ever find yourself going to a theme park of any kind, I highly recommend bounding while you're there. If you're unfamiliar with bounding, or if you'd like to, but you just don't know kind of where or how to start, let me know if you'd like a video about that, because I would be happy to make it. Between the results, which I'm very happy with, and the experiences I had while wearing them, I am just so pleased with how these projects turned out. And if you like them too, you can let me know by hitting the like button. And if you want to see what I'm doing next and join the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when I post, hit the notification bell and YouTube will let you know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Since we didn't really get a reveal for you, my friend, here's a side view, his little tail, his little spikes, his little horns, his little eyeballs. Well, not so little eyeballs. Bye!